It is time to get into main topic number 2. It is time to talk about WandaVision episode 8. Like, I knew we were going to get a lot of backstory, a lot of with
Ooh, so
Agatha, a
much.
lot of stuff with Wanda, but I did not expect the things that we got into this episode. So, first, I want to start off with some of our favorite moments, and then we can go into some other stuff from there. So, as always, Spicy, I want to start with you. What were some of your favorite moments from WandaVision episode 8?
Man, I think Agatha stole the show. This is Agatha's show now. This is Agatha's
Hmm.
show. She's calling shots, and I loved her villainous witchy like personality, like so like condescending but like vibrant, really animated and kind of like pulls you into like where she's like, I'm a sweet, but really I want to get something out of you type thing. I really like the actress, and I found out she actually plays Doc Ock in Into the Spider-Verse. So I think she's been practicing this villain role for a while. So I just loved her. I love going back into the Wanda's past, how she was how she was looking at all the clues to try and piece together what Wanda is, and when in the end she kind of like, okay, I get it now. Like I love it. Like I loved her. I love Agatha so much. Even her backstory, how she again plays the whole like, oh my god, no, like please just let me give one more chance, and then she's like, stop with the deceitfulness. She's like, I can't help it. I'm just like, yes, deranged. I love that. I love a good villainess. I love a good villainess. I really do. So
It was awesome. Vash, I'm going to toss it to you. What were some of your favorite moments?
I love how when I said last week that the last week was the last week of sitcoms, and this week came, I was like, oh, no sitcom. I was right about that. So that's 1/3 correct on my end. And there was no opening either. So I was like, damn, this feels weird. There's no opening this time as well. Um, but my favorite moment is to see how Agatha literally, instead of calling the shot, she was opening the
mm-hmm.
doors, like seeing the past of Wanda and then see the present, and knowing that we're like literally closer to seconds at the finish line of saying that she had powers all along, like mutants, but she never knew how to access it. And her touching the Infinity Stones, one of them, which Agatha like realized that okay, it gave you more access to powers, and showing that I love how the power of editing could do so much because Captain Hayward, or technically Dickward, literally like to call that, oh, she stole Vision. In reality, he lied to people saying that, yeah, he stole Vision. No. All she did was open the door, broke the glass, and literally said, all right, I'm out of here. You can't, you gave me my grieveness that I needed. And she left. And then after that, she went to the house, I mean, to the town of Westfield, and literally chose in a different car that people try to pour her into. And she just broke. She was broken. She was at her last stand of footing where she can actually understand herself. And I love that because we needed this whole type of full circle to understand what the hell was going on in this past episodes, and this
You
was
Yeah.
said
important.
stone. I love the Scarlet Witch design in this. I was like, yay! Can we get that
Mhm.
with Phoenix, please? Can we get that with Phoenix though? I want it with Phoenix, but yeah, I was like, yes.
Sam, what were some of your favorite moments?
So okay, from what I caught from this episode, we only need to know a little bit about Agatha, which was fine. Her backstory, technically betrayed her mom, kind of the whole similarities of what Loki and Odin had to go through and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. It was fun, and then like it kind of feels like Wanda was the creator and everything, and it's just that Agatha just put herself in there to just be, hey, let me be a director real quick. Let me just control, change this. Let me kill this dog real quick. I was like, okay. Cause this drama, cause that drama. Everything that seems to do with anything, but it's just my study of what Wanda is, because she's not a normal witch. Because from her aspect, she just wants more power. Agatha wants a lot more power. She wants to learn how
hmm
um, uh, the Scarlet Witch, which she finds out much since this is actually the first time we actually hear the name Scarlet Witch within the MC universe. That was actually amazing. I was like, I thought this was a myth, and then like it's like your magic is chaos magic. You're the Scarlet Witch, and I was like, okay, that's the most
Yes.
incredible scene. That's actually one of the most biggest reveal scene and ever. And even though like the MC universe advertised Wanda's name of Scarlet Witch, Scarlet Witch, Scarlet Witch, finally they have put a meaning of what that name is, and it's literally from that episode, from episode 8, and that was the defining moment for me in that favorite episode from that part for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was just at the very beginning, just seeing Agatha during the Salem witch trials, bro.
Mhm.
And watching the other witches try to stop her because she betrayed the coven by accessing dark magic, and the fact that she killed all of them, she killed her mother, all for ultimate power. And then we learn so much more about that basement, that it's pretty much it's just a room to amplify her magic. All of those symbols on the walls were runes to amplify her magic. All of the rules that she makes comes through with the runes. I love all of that stuff. Like, this episode sheds light on so many different things. Like, you guys already alluded to, the fact that Wanda never stole Vision's body,
Mm-mm.
which is amazing. Once we get to the mid-credit scene, and we'll talk about that once we get to the end of the episode. But my favorite stuff was with Agatha. Like, her, all of this is just her genuine curiosity. She's not some basic one-note villain. This is all just curiosity. She's not necessarily evil, and she's definitely not good. She's in this weird gray area where she is just a witch who wants more power. Something else that I love, she talks about transmutation. She talks about all of these different forms of magic that Wanda hasn't even done yet. And all that means is that we're going to see Wanda use those abilities in future movies. So I love that that was an amazing setup. So while we're there, because I kind of want to go through the entire, all of the different beats that this episode went through. So let's start at the beginning. After we get the Salem witch trial scene, we're back into the basement, and Agatha is talking to Wanda, and then we get to the first flashback, which was back in Sokovia. What did you guys think about that? Spicy, I'll start with you.
I loved it because it started to answer a little bit of our questions, to where I'm like, are those really her parents? Since she has these powers, is that her dad, really her dad? Maybe her mom is, but it's just so many questions. I love the Stark Industries technology, because it
Mhm.
kind of starts how they Ultron, how they keep recommending you to watch Ultron, because it just explains the twins' backstory about how they became, Hydra agents, and how they got their powers and all of that. So I love that, and how sitcoms ultimately help calm Wanda down to
Mhm.
use her powers, like, since she was a kid. I love that it was consistent all throughout, how it's like she's an emotional character. She's so OP because her emotions are so amplified. So seeing how TV shows and sometimes her family calms her down to just use her powers without even knowing. I love that detail. 'Cause I'm like, that's ultimately how we see these emotional like I keep saying Phoenix, but Jean Grey, two emotional women characters who are OP with, because their emotions can ultimately cause chaos wherever they go. So I just love how it's like she keeps out calmness with sitcoms, and how why this all started because of all that. And I loved how, we'll get into later, but like the three Trinity type thing, like completion, I love that whole thing. I'm like, this is, but yeah, the whole scene with that, like how, like, that was her first time using her powers. Even before, I was like, in my notes, I was like, Wanda had powers before. I was like, what? So I loved it. Like, she's not a mutant. I don't think they're going to mutant route, but they're just saying like the whole witch thing, because I don't think they can say mutants. But
I think, but didn't like Agatha? Oh, you used their powers. You used the traits. Like, no, the bomb just defective. Did not
and
activate.
she even said, so you used a probability spell. She was teaching Wanda all throughout these things, like all
Mhm.
this. She was teaching her, like, you use this. You're a witch. You're a baby witch. Wanda was like, what? I can't even get through this trauma. She's like, okay,
Yeah, but it makes
next
sense though
door. Like, she
because
just like,
it made sense though, because Stark Industry technology was like all war weapons, and most of the time it doesn't always work. And that's like they've been selling like weapons that don't work to like other terrorists and groups and stuff like that. And that was the entire reason of how Stark Industry kind of built up and made its money back in the day before like Tony took over and became Iron Man and stuff like that. But I kind of love how the family, like the father loves sitcoms, and they always have the family night watching TV shows. Everybody stuff. You have to practice English because in case we're gonna go to like America, US, we're gonna have to learn English and know how to understand it and watch this stuff. And if you see him open a book, no, his briefcase showing all the sitcoms, like the whole I Love Lucy, the Malcolm in the Middle, all the other shows. Like her love of sitcom shows was thanks to the father that raised her. Like you can like it brings up the whole stuff like if that's not her real parents, like I mean like your they weren't your father, but he was your daddy kind of thing situation where
Mm-hmm.
like they raised her. It was an unfortunate accident, the whole bomb situation, and the mom looked outside the window, a war was going on in Sokovia, and they got taken down because of a Stark Industry bombing that happened in that building, and stuck in under that bed for 2 days. That trauma literally builds around you, and it's emotionally like crazy hurtful. And the doors that Agatha shows like, so remember this door? Remember how this door looked like? Like, oh crap, memories comes in perfect way to go into each dimensions.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Like I love the fact that they've officially retconned the fact that she got her powers from the stone. I love the fact that they've introduced that people have had abilities before
Mm-hmm.
the enhanced even existed. I definitely think those are her parents because I mean, look at the X-Men comics. Just because you're a mutant doesn't mean that your parents are. Everyone has the X gene. It's just it shows itself in some people sometimes. So I definitely think those are her parents. And much like we already knew, this confirmed for all of us that the reason why she chose these sitcoms were because this is what she grew up watching. And again, I have said this multiple times, this is Wanda dealing with trauma. Like these happy families that she see in these sitcoms represents something that she's never had in her life, right? Past her parents dying. That all of that happiness was removed from her. And for her to regain that happiness was to relive life through these sitcoms. And in these sitcoms, people get hurt, but it's not, they don't get any fatal wounds. They don't actually die in these shows. And that was the happy life that she wanted to create for Vision. So I really love that flashback. Vash, what about you? What did you think about that first flashback to Sokovia?
It was beautiful because it showed that we finally understand why it's sitcoms. That's what our girl Darcy asked. Like, why sitcoms? Like, she was wondering, like, why is it that we have sitcoms? And we finally get the answers because Wanda, like, wants to see happy life. And Vision even asks later, like, why do you like to watch this? Like, oh, they didn't really get hurt. It's more in the comedy aspect. It's more, it's like she told her brother, like, it's not really scary. It's less scary, but more in a comedy way. And that's what we ourselves like to read comics, like to watch television, movies, and horrors because it's not real, but it gives us entertainment. It helps us escape, and that's what Wanda wanted to watch sitcoms because that's her escapism, and that's the beautiful aspect of it because we see that whole type of psychosis of how it worked from childhood because she already did that in her brainwaves that she wants to come to escape, and that's why when she went to the town of Westview, she made this whole town as a sitcom for her to escape her sorrow of Vision, her brother, and the whole trauma that she's had
I
all over
actually
the
liked her
years.
quote in the end too, like from the Van Dyke episodes. Like in the end, it was just a dream, and people were they're all right and stuff like that. And
It was
like
beautiful.
that was her only like kind of her calm, saying over and over again, just like it was a dream in the end. Everything was be okay, and then calm. Like it was her only way to cope with all the trauma that she just experienced right now. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, James. Go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. I love that this episode also explains why Vision couldn't leave the hex. It's because
Mhm.
he's a product of the hex. He doesn't exist outside of it, therefore he can't leave, which is absolutely insane. So let's move on to the next flashback where we get to Strucker's lab where she is being experimented on. We find out that all of the people that came before her could not survive them trying to use the Mind Stone to enhance them. We now know that Wanda survived simply because of how amazing she is and how powerful she is with her chaos magic. So what did you guys think about that flashback? Spicy?
Again, it gave me Phoenix Jean Grey, except type thing where it's like this is she's badass. This is a source. Let me come to this powerful source. And again, I love how even before like we got Wanda and her like retro costume, and we also see that in like the light of the Mind Stone coming into her. So I just love that like final power up that she got, and it was so beautifully animated. I really like how Marvel gives us these movie qualities and TV shows, because it was just, that moment was so intense and it was so exciting. It was so much, and I just explained so much, and I don't know. I feel like it was perfect. Like I really loved it. And again, she's watching her shows again, chilling out. So I just loved that consistent flow of all throughout these parts. But I love the whole Mind Stone and like the Scarlet Witch coming into her. I was like, yes.
I I agree with that because what Chris said as well in the chat. I'm so happy that we finally got more information from a character that was otherwise underdeveloped, and that's so
Yes.
true because of a character like Wanda introduced into the Avengers, introduced to join the Avengers. We never got her as a character and how Wanda and Vision were together as a couple, how they had conversation, and not to jump into with the whole other flashback next, but when Wanda and Vision were talking, they were also watching Malcolm in the Middle. We also know more that there was more conversations that they had other than what we saw in the whole type of Avengers film. There's more things they shared because they have a room next to each other and how their relationship built. But I love this aspect where it shows that Wanda got her powers by the whole Infinity Stone, but it shows that she's more connected, more of her magic and everything. So that was very informative because more things we get as a background, more layers of a character is more type of understanding we have of a character and how we can relate to them.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that she was already born a powerful witch.
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
The Mind Stone only enhanced her abilities even more.
mhm.
That was so trippy. So my thing is, I want to see like what happened to Pietro, right?
Yeah.
So did Pietro also have like latent abilities, and then the Mind Stone also enhanced him, and that's why he survived? Was it Wanda's love? Like, did she like think really hard? Oh my God, I heard them say that other people died during this process, and she like subconsciously used her powers to protect Pietro. Like, I think any way that goes, it's extremely fascinating.
Mhm. From what I got from it was that we learned that both Pietro and Wanda were just volunteers and stuff, but really they're just being like lab rats experimented into the Hydra group, and all they wanted to do was just change the world, which we what we got from Ultron. They weren't just full on just terrorist groups that works for them and stuff like that. They wanted a whole entire change for Sokovia and everything else. And if you guys remember, like they were looking through camera of Wanda, like her watching television, and they kept going back, rewind that, play that. Her powers was able, her watching the sitcom show of what's going on, literally stopped everything. We don't know what's going to powers. It blocked and stuff like that. I think it latents helps her abilities if she watches sitcoms. It gives her more of a build up and powers and abilities in that sort of way. I feel like it builds up more of her emotions and her stuff and feelings, and that's how she gets more of her chaos powers in general. Because like since we're gonna go into the next door, she just voluntarily goes in there just because she remembers the moment she had with Vision. The literally a whole one-on-one talk of together. Because all the other times there was just all the other members of the Avengers around them every time they talk. They never had that one-on-one situation, and she was at her most comfortable place watching Malcolm in the Middle sitcoms in her room, and like Vision just heard his thoughts, and it's like just come in and, like the one-on-one like.
And if you listen to each of the shows that she's watching, the whatever the character says pertains to what she's going through at the time. Like in the beginning, like oh, just, and even when she's in a room, it's like oh, she's full of all sorts of stuff. Like talking about Wanda, like you have to listen to like talking about the dolls. She's full of all sorts of stuff. I don't know, and like that's like just like building more on her character, building more on like what she's going through, how she can relate, how even how we watch shows, how we relate to characters, how it helps us and whatever we're going through. So seeing Wanda get that calmness and that stability from these shows, like it's just build more on her character, like you said, and like we've ultimately see Wanda like not be almost afraid of her powers. Like she doesn't like to use. She hasn't used the most. She was like, oh, I can move this in my mind. She can do more than that. So I really do like how Agatha's there as like kind of like a unruly teacher to kind of be like, girl, you more than this. Like you
Yeah,
can
right.
do,
Like, you're more powerful than this. Like, you
yeah,
can do a lot of stuff
she's
with
like,
this
you use a
shit.
probability spell. She's like, no, it was a dummy thing. She's like, girl, for 2 days you use a probability spell. Like that was a spell. Like, and Wanda kind of being like, what is going on? So I liked how it's like, and like how Lagos ultimately affected her, how she was like sorry about it, like in a commercial, how she doesn't like, she's afraid because she killed people. So just seeing like this progression and seeing how like, girl, you're more than what you even know. I feel it's gonna boost her character a lot because we're ultimately breaking her character down. So I just love how like what she's gonna do after all this. So
Yeah, I mean, this is the genius of Kevin Feige. Like, I don't know if this was his plan all along, or if he saw the gaps in everything that he was working on and decided on this being the perfect way to fix those gaps. Because all of that Wanda backstory, right? And of course, once we get to like Civil War, Vision and Wanda are just this couple, and we don't get to see what made them a couple. It's like, well, we know they were together in the comics, so just put it in the movie.
mhm.
Now we know that Vision, just in a couple words, was able to reach her in a way that nobody else could. It's like from Vision's perspective, like he says, like, I don't know loss because I've never been that close to someone. And yes, you're grieving and you're going through all of this. And I love that Chris put it in chat. But isn't grief like the perseverance of love? Like isn't it like isn't well, what does it say? Isn't grief the perceiving of love like
No, you're right. Preservation of love.
yeah, like that was amazing. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you're grieving, the fact that you feel all of this is because you felt so much love for your family, for the people that you care about. So that was such a great moment between them, and I can definitely see from that moment why she would fall in love with Vision. And to her point, she sees Vision as more than just what he is, which is this synthezoid. Like she just sees another living being that
Mhm.
instantly connected with her. So I love that.
I
So
think
on that topic, let's continue talking about the whole conversation at the compound.
I was gonna bring up like it wasn't technically the whole first Mind Stone encounter with her abilities, and instead of her getting killed like the many people, she sees like the whole Scarlet Witch image of herself because she technically saw within the Mind Stone of Loki's staff. Like literally, you see from the cube to the stone, and then to her technically future self. It's just more than just connection between her and Vision. It was also her and the stone and everything else within that, like togetherness too.
If you watch Age of Ultron, I remember I watched it, and when Thor first like brought Vision to, Wanda was like drawn to Vision. She was like checking him out. Like she was like, she felt like a connection. It's because she had the minds. Like it just all makes sense now.
The amplification from the stone itself helped
Yeah,
again.
like I love that. But the compound, I like I said, it really solidified their relationship. And they're walking again, watching Malcolm in the Middle, and like the whole whatever happened in that scene, just talking about, like I said, like you're grieving because you ultimately had love, and so she didn't want to talk about it. And he kind of like, oh, whenever you feel free, she was like, what I want is for my brother to come back. And then she kind of realized, like, okay, I'm talking about it. And so I just liked how like she's like, okay, here's someone I can like talk to and this and that, kind of understand. Because to be honest, Vision and Wanda were ultimately like the outcast of the Avengers. Like
Mhm.
everyone else was kind of like running their heads around, like causing strife with each other. And WandaVision was always off with them by themselves, and that's why I really liked their dynamic because he's a synthesoid. They don't know what she was. That's why they were like, Wanda, you gotta stay your ass in the compound because you kill people. And she's like, what? They're like, we don't even know what to do with you, girl. Like that's why I like that scene because like if you remember in was it Endgame or Age of Ultron, like Tony came into that same room, was like, you guys stay in lockdown, and then Vision was like, yeah, I'll make it fun though. And she's like, you're gonna keep me here too, like dishonor type thing where it's like, you really gonna do that right here, like after what we shared. So like Civil War. So I kind of liked how they all bleeding together. It's like that one little room like that we've seen in films. So
Yeah, that was amazing. Like there's so many like great things that they put into this episode that again just fills in so many different gaps that all fans have thought of since these characters were introduced. So let's move on to the sword facility because this is completely different than we
Oh
thought
hell yeah!
it was going to play out. When she walked in, I was like, "Oh shit, we're about to see the scene where she walks in and she steals Vision's body." And that's not what happens at all.
Nope.
So Spicy, again, we're gonna start with you. Like, what did you think of that sequence at the sword facility?
I'm not gonna lie, when he first showed that thing, I was like, Wanda, no, I didn't believe it. 'Cause I'm like, Wanda doesn't do things without probable cause. Like, she's not gonna just wild out. Like, cause like people say, like they kind of in the comments like Wanda's crazy. She's not crazy. Like she does things for a reason. So I was like, I don't know, this guy's kind of fishy here. And seeing how that wasn't the case, I'm like, I knew it because it's like she was grieving. Like I don't think she would want to go crazy after all of this. So seeing how like she came in and kind of was like, I know what y'all doing over here. I just want to see him and bury him. So all she wanted to do was bury him so she can complete her grieving process. And since Hayward was testing her, he was like, "Oh yeah, come on in. You wanted to see this, right? Yeah, look. See what we're doing to him." And she's just like, "What?" He's like, "What you gonna do about it?" Like he was like seeing what like that's why I'm like her and Agatha, they working together because they were both kind of coaching, like testing Wanda. But she couldn't get that grieving. She couldn't get that grieving, and to see her, she said, "I can't feel you." She's like, "I don't feel you. I don't. You're like that." That did it for her. That ultimately pushed her to the edge. And seeing how apparently I guess they bought like a lot somewhere, they're gonna live together.
Mhm.
That kind of was like the final like that was the final straw.
The nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it
mm,
was because like all she wanted to do was bury him. But he was right. He's like, you're not gonna bury $10,000 worth of vibranium, and like you're not gonna
$3
do
billion
that.
worth of
3 billion,
vibranium.
yeah.
Yeah, 10 million. You're not about to do that. But then he also said like he also would slip up like at the beginning they were like, oh, Wanda, he's like, she doesn't have another name to be called by. Like he's been slipping up all throughout the series. So I like that fantasy where it's like, who is this Hayward guy? Like who really is he? So but I really did like that moment where it was kind of like, all right, we see everything's unraveling.
Yeah,
So for me,
like Chris is saying in chat real quick is just like Hayward completely played her. It's like, yep, letting her see the body and letting her trying to connect to Vision, like you were saying, Spicy, and her not feeling that connection. And of course, bringing on the whole thing, like you can't just bury $3 billion worth of vibranium. Like Vision is the most advanced, most powerful sentient piece of tech ever. You know what I mean? You can't just put it in the ground. So I mean, the fact that he was able to trick Wanda like that, man, I fucking hate that dude. I still think he's a scroll, and we'll get there once we get to the end because I have some other thoughts on that. But Vash, continue with what you were saying.
I was gonna say that to what James and Spicy and Chris said that they played her, that our boy Hayward definitely played her because he said, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Bring him back to life?" So he was trying to get that into her mind. Where later on, when she got to Westview, is to snap and bring the memories that she has of him, the memories that she has shared, in a way to bring him back to life. So that was real, and it brought him back. Not physically, but in a type of spectrum form. And Hayward knew what he was doing. He did on purpose. He had a plan, and like he wanted her to see this rip off body, showing that it's breaking up apart. And now going to the post credit scene, not yet, but I'm curious to know. Not that he has them online. Does he have said memories, or is this a new file? Is it new footage? Is this a new software of said Vision? Is what I'm curious to know.
So we'll talk about at the end. I don't want to get
Yeah, I
into
know.
just yet, but I think he was ecstatic that Wanda showed up because remember this whole time he couldn't figure out how to power Vision. He always
Yes.
had this plan. So Wanda showing up and Wanda touching Vision, he wanted to see what would happen. It's like, could she bring him back to life? I think he just wanted to see what would happen. And I think it was like a double-edged sword. It's like, well, let's see if she can bring it back. And even if she can't, that's great because then she'll just leave and that'll give her closure. And then that way we can just focus on Vision and do whatever we want. So I thought that was genius on Hayward's part. Like I still think he's an asshole, but I think that's genius. Like I don't know, man. Like
So that's why he put the missile to her to bring back the drone out so they could retract that type of energy for that reason.
maybe. I don't think he thought that far
No,
ahead.
he didn't think that far.
I think he just took advantage of the situation.
That could be it too. Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I felt like because Monica didn't know that he was gonna. I think he was like a science fair. He was poking at her, see like what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like I don't think he knew, but I think he was like Eisen. Like he was like, oh, let's just see what happens. Let's leave him alone, see what happens. Let's see. Like he was like just doing multiple science experiments because that's what this facility is. Like it's all whole bunch of technology and like that. So I really think he was just like moving all the pieces around and I he just was just using this as a controlled like environment. He just was like using to see what he can get out of her. Because like we said, no, we don't know what Wanda can do, but we know what she can do. She, Lagos. So we're like, what else can she do? And I think he was using that information to just move around and see. But now he's like, all right, now we know. Like we got the power source. So
Like I think that was smart from Hayward's point of view, especially since Wanda's, because they explained it. Wanda's power was amplified because of a Infinity Stone, and they're wondering maybe we use that same frequency to help power up their Vision robot and stuff like that, or power up the original Vision that she wanted. But no, we're gonna falsify all the camera shots, make her look like she's the villain, but really like we're just being military government, that sort of stuff. We want to have our own weapon. We don't have a weapon for own side, especially during the time where the 5-year gap, half the world disappeared. Nothing's to stop anybody from within the galaxy to help invade Earth and stuff. So they were thinking like, let's use the Vision. Like we're gonna use Vision again, but for our own military use in that sort of way. And they just never stopped even after people came back. They just kept continuing. Like you never know. We like after some of the Avengers are gone. Tony's gone. Captain America's gone. We need more defenders. We need more weapons for our country and our state and for our world. But really, it's just for under his palm of his hand. He just wants military power.
And Wanda said that she was like, I woke up and he wasn't there. Like everyone's coming back, and even when she's walking to the store facility, she sees like happy families finally getting their family back, and she's pissed. She's like, I came back from the stone, and my husband's not here. Like I know you have him, so she's like, she wants her happy story. Thus, again, the whole sitcom thing. She's like, everyone's getting their family back. Everyone like my friends from like died, whatever. Like I want my husband back. Like so that I love that.
Yeah, man. It's so revealing. It's so exciting to see all of this stuff, but it's still incredibly heartbreaking. And Vash, I'm gonna kick it to you first. But Wanda gets to the car and then she has this letter. She sees the letter from Vision. Vision bought land for them to have a home together. That is so life crushing. And that's why she went to Westview. She stood there, she stood at the foundation of a home that Vision wanted to build for them. And that grief, that love allowed her to push past her limits and unlock a new power that was hidden away inside her to create all of this. And watching that happen was absolutely amazing. And I'm glad that I was wrong on previous episodes. Like the last 2 episodes of villains that we did, I was like, okay, well, Wanda made a deal with some devil, possibly Nightmare, to get Vision back, because that's what Nightmare does. He makes a deal and then feeds off of like your consciousness and the people around you, right? That's what I thought. But this is so much better. Her love, her grief just allowed her to make this entire world. And like what Agatha was saying earlier on, it's like you had magic on autopilot. You are controlling thousands of people on autopilot. You weren't doing anything. And all Agatha wants is that kind of power. She wants that ability for herself. And I love that. But Vash, I'm going to kick it to you first. I want to know your thoughts on that entire sequence.
It's sad because she kept going around through the town. She saw the people. We saw the people that was playing the roles at the jobs. We saw the people that were just having their normal lives, picking up packages, doing groceries. And then Wanda just drives up to the driveway that Vision got. The house hasn't been built yet. And then she's just in despair. Like, it just takes one bad day. Just like the Joker in Earth, it takes one bad day for you to become who you are. And Wanda had many freaking bad days. And she was at her breaking point. She was at the last straw. And she couldn't take it no more. She was in despair. She lost her man. She lost her brother. She lost her parents. She lost her home. There was like no good things for her to think of. Like, what is it that is good in her life? She came back after the blip. Most of the people's gone, Black Widow and everything, Tony's gone and everything. So she's like, what is it that I have left? So she's in despair. She's a breaking point, and I can understand that anybody that has had bad days or anybody that has had breaking points can understand where's Wanda coming from, and for you to just see where her cosmic energy explodes. Because if anybody don't know, most powers, quirks, anything comic related, anything anime related, comes from emotions, and she was in her most breaking emotion, and her cosmic power just broke through the whole town, and that's why she was on autopilot. She was not knowing that it was her consciously, but she had an idea of what was going on, but not really consciously knowing that it was her. And that's what Agatha told her, girl, you're on autopilot. You're controlling every single goddamn person here. And it was freaking beautiful. It was heartbreaking to sad. I felt like I had to pause a couple moments, like, damn, girl's literally in despair. Like, she's in crying in despair. That's why our girl Monica and both say that I could feel her emotions because everyone felt it because of autopilot. So it was wild.
Yeah, Sam, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I was gonna also add to the point, like she mentioned this, like it was that dark, that emptiness, the nothingness, like the forever feeling of alone, nothingness, and it she kept to feel it every single time, and then to the point where she literally has nobody left. At least like from when her parents died, she had her brother. When her brother died, she had Vision, and then when Vision died, she had no one else. She was just forever alone. This is the most that you've ever seen her, and add to the even worse part of it is like not only is Vision dead, you're literally like taking every part and carcasses of my husband's body to make your own weapon. That's the most even worse. It wasn't only just like I can't feel him, like I don't sense his consciousness, I don't sense any part of the frequency from the Mind Stone or anything. And she just her own powers, you can see from the lighting where she creates like a more the frequency of the Mind Stone to create Vision, and gives him his own personal thoughts, his mind, even his own powers. When we've seen it, it's technically power seems to work within her own world of hex and stuff, that sort of thing. That's still within the stone. I'm gonna say like that's still within the Infinity Stone's powers for sure, because we know it's like infinite, and all it really does is help amplify her, but she doesn't need the amplifier anymore, and it's all herself. Boom, you create the vision of whatever you want it to be. But it's also thanks to that frequency she was able to create her own kids, because it seems like her kids are real, even though like it seems like it's really real to me now. um, um, but yeah, it's always we always recapping back into the sitcom, like literally like the main ingredients is loss, sitcom, powers. From the beginning, from start to finish in the beginning with Sokovia, parents gone, sitcom watching the TV, her calm and her power manifesting. Pedro dies, watching Malcolm in the Middle sitcom, Vision's there, power like calm. And now for this, it's she comes back to life, Vision dead. Uh, she no longer has the calm. She breaks, and now she lives in a sitcom. Literally the whole three, like rinse and repeat in a different way in the strategy, and it was brilliant writing. This is brilliant, like TV show, all come together. It's cool. It's been really really cool.
There's nobody to hold her down. Like, there's no type of lightning rod. Like, just like Barry and Wally, they have their own lightning rods. Wanda has no lightning rod to hold her down, and that's very sad.
Yeah. Spicy, let me get your thoughts on that scene, and then we'll move into that end credit scene, and then we can head out for the day.
All right, so like I said, Agatha is ultimately a therapist throughout this whole thing, and I love it because you see Wanda going through the 7 stages of grieving. And it's funny, I watched this video, and this girl even pointed out, she was like, if you notice, when Wanda says not previously on WandaVision, beginning she was happy, second time she kind of gets less and less enthusiastic of saying it. Even this one, she was mad. She's like, this time previously on WandaVision, like she was like mad. So it's like you see like her voice kind of changes throughout that, and then with that final scene, it was just so powerful because like it explains so much. Like it seemed like she was taking like the power stone out of her, because you see like her power red, and like that's this power stone kind of separating and creating vision, and that's how I feel like her kids are chaos, magic, and vision mixed together. Like because they have Peycho's speed, and her other son has her powers, all her lineage, nothing to do with vision. She created them herself. They are her kids. Yes, she made them. So, and that's why Agatha had them, because she's like, these kids are a product of this environment, and I need them to I need them because they're like their own beings. I like that whole explanation, because I was like, how are these kids even here? But so seeing how it all kind of pans together, and I just love it. Like I said, like the Trinity, parents death, brother death, husband, like kind of like that completion cycle, and then Agatha revealing you're the Scarlet Witch, like that's just like that whole full circleness of like sacrifice ultimately. So I really did like it, and I really was like, whoa. I was like, oh my god. I was like about to cry. So I'm like, oh my god, like she going through it, and I loved it. I really did.
I want to go back to when you said like the whole she got so angry, she got emotional every time she said previously on. It comes to the point where the title of episode is previously on. Like she just didn't want to say it anymore. Just let put it the title. It's
No
like
titles. Yes. She's like, I'm done with it. I'm done. Like I love it. I love it.
I just know that's the title. I was trying to figure like
that's the title.
I'm like, why does it keep saying previously on? Like I know I was just watching WandaVision last week. You didn't tell me what I was watching, but I'm like, oh, that was the fucking title the whole time. Shit.
Yeah, that was the title.
So
wow.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's such great writing, man. This show is absolutely amazing. And with everything that we learned in this episode, I'm curious to see what does this means for the kids, because we know that Vision was created strictly from Wanda's powers, much like the kids. So if the kids leave the hex, do they still exist now? Like I don't know for sure anymore. Because before I was like, yeah, whatever she creates, because whatever she alters changes forever. But they weren't altered, they were created.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's the difference. So what does that mean?
The Big Bang, like Monica's powers, like the Big Bang, like she going through like it's like another universe and her getting her powers. It's like that's Monica, the kids. I feel like they're both a product of this Nexus environment, like things like that.
And what Agatha thought, like she thought it was transmutation for a second, because when she said like when she took out the bug, she transformed that bug into the bird, and then like literally drew that bird to feed to a rabbit. She thought the twins were a transmutation. Actually, this whole entire
and that explains Pietro. I knew Pietro was fake, and I think I told my sisters, I'm like, yeah, she altered his appearance. Like I'm like, that's not. And she said, so yeah, your brother's dead. It was kind of hard to do that.
She did explain necromancy was possible, like, but I couldn't get I couldn't cut his body, and his body's full of holes. I was like, dang.
Yeah, and plus she said that the body is in a different country. So I'm like, oh, so I guess he got buried in Sokovia. Okay, that's where they were fighting. I'm like, okay, it makes sense why that body is now over here, because we're in the whole different side of New Jersey. So I'm like, okay, that makes total sense.
Well, still the law of death, you can't bring anyone back. Like that's the law of death if in anything. So seeing how she like was explaining that to Wanda, and how she's kind of like, but you can create life. Like as she said what Scarlet Witch meant. Like you're a combustion of life. Like she was like, let me hold on to your kids real quick, because I kind of I want that. Get over here. Like
so that was a nice question, because in the chat they said, what do we think about Agatha? Do we still think she's a villain? Do we still think that she's working for somebody like Nightmare or maybe Mephisto? Or do we think she's in the gray area? Because me and James wrote in the comment that I think that she's in the gray area, that she's working for herself because she wants to cast magic. But maybe she could also be told to go get Wanda for the cast magic, so she could also be working for somebody, but also working for herself at the same time. So it could be either or.
So I think all of this is in her self-interest. And I think she's simply channeling the power of Nightmare or Mephisto or a bunch of different demons. I think she's just channeling their magic now to make herself more powerful. But all of this is all for her selfish needs, right? I wouldn't call her a villain. She's an antagonist because she doesn't care what happens to other people. The only thing that she cares about is figuring out what gave Wanda her abilities and finding a way to get that kind of power herself so that she can do whatever she wants. I would call her an antagonist more than just like a straight up villain. Spicy, what are your thoughts?
I'm not familiar with the comics, but I did some research. Didn't they said like Mephisto like soul like is through the twins? So do you think like maybe Agatha's gonna be like that like medium where she's probably gonna like use the twins to kind of like see like kind of like as a mind stone and like and then also part of Wanda's powers to kind of like absorb maybe. I feel like that might be the route they're gonna go. To kind of feel that like little Mephisto like Easter egg type thing. I'm not too sure, but like from what I've seen in the comics, the twins are like ultimately like the most important like accessories to like the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting to see.
I think Mephisto's already here. I think he's the rabbit. As you see, like
Yeah, I think that
she's
rap was a
always
portal.
yeah, like either like the
She
portal, like remember she stole the brooch from the mom, and then you see the rabbit, like she's just like literally petting it and then feeds it, literally
Yes.
feeds it like the bug turned to mutates into a bird. I think that is Mephisto or Nightmare or whoever it's.
They said her son's name is last name is Scratchy, and the rapper's name is Senior Scratchy. So they think like maybe that's her son from what I've been seeing. So I'm like
That
it could be.
that could also that could also be that could also be her familiar because we know that
Yeah, she's a
witches
cat.
are hanging around with a cat and everything. So that could also be it. And we know from what in the chat says that she also stole their magic in the beginning of the episode of the
Mhm.
witches as well. Because when James mentioned that girl killed her mom, killed all the witches, she also took their magic by absorbing their life energy and everything else around that.
Yeah, and Chris is saying it in chat, but that Yo Magic commercial makes so much more sense now. Like that could have been, well, I
Mm.
think it is like a straight up reference to Agatha. Like the only way to survive is to absorb magic, and that's exactly what she did. Now, as far as Mephisto goes, in the comics, the kids weren't real; they were soul fragments of Mephisto. Uh,
Mm.
so in this, since things are a little different, maybe I don't know. I'm not going to put too much stock in it, but maybe Agatha will use the kids as soul fragments in a different way. Use them as sacrifices to bring Mephisto or Nightmare into this universe so that she can then access even more of their power. That's what I'm thinking now. But I mean, who knows how it could go? Like, I love what they've been able to do with this show, man. It's been absolutely incredible. So let's get into that mid-credit scene because I can't wait any longer to
Stop it.
talk.
Let's go.
So this is absolutely amazing. We have White Vision in this, bro. In the comics, this version of Vision was created when Vision's old body was destroyed. All of his previous memories, all of his brainwaves, all of that stuff was erased, destroyed, and this new body was created. And to see this happen is absolutely incredible because we know that this version of Vision is going, Hayward is going to send this Vision to destroy Wanda. So watching that fight between them when Wanda sees this other version of Vision, I don't know what that's going to do to her mentally. It like she's already so broken. I don't know what's gonna happen. Spicy, I want to toss it to you. Like, what were your thoughts when you saw the mid-credit scene?
I was just because like it's funny because I as soon as it was ended, I was like, okay, and I kind of sped too fast. I was like, where's the end credits at? And I went back. I was like, okay, here it is. And I was like, wow. So her powers can linger on objects. Like another new thing we're learning about Wanda, where I'm like, wow, okay. And then the
People
scene,
too. People too.
people too, and seeing how like this is Vision's true body and how ultimately that's like I want to say like the copy she makes like a spirit. So I feel like I don't know. I just feel like that's gonna be an interesting clash because Vision ultimately is trying to look for the Vision she created is trying to look for Wanda. So I really want to see how White Vision and the Stone Vision interact with each other because right now Stone Vision's like upset, but he wants to make sure his kids are okay. So having that on his heart is nice because how Agatha is holding the twins. So just seeing how that battle's gonna go through, and how Wanda's gonna be in the middle of it because I think that Vision can't really withstand that outside the hex, whereas this Vision obviously can. But both with different power sources, all kind of going to Wanda. So I really like how it's just like what's gonna happen, like what's. And I think Monica's gonna be that wild card to kind of like come in because ultimately she was nowhere to be seen in this episode. So I like how it's like yeah, but Monica got her power, so let's see what she gonna do, you know, kind of thing. So, but ultimately, that scene just was like, this last episode gonna be crazy. Like, I'm just excited.
And
So
also in comics, like White Vision also reverts back to being the Vision that we know when he gets back all of his memories, his programming, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So now that Sword has taken on the responsibility of rebuilding his body, Wanda should be able to theoretically to just take the consciousness from the one that she created in the hex and
Mhm.
just put him in this body. Vash, I'm going to toss it to you because I know you have stuff to say.
James just literally said my theory I was just about to bring up because this is the pros and cons of working with people that know you too well. Because James just literally said my whole theory I was gonna bring up, and Chris said it like, Paul Bennett said that he's excited to work with somebody that he has never worked with before, and technically he's gonna be working with himself because Paul Bennett, aka Vision from inside the Hex, is gonna be fighting himself most likely first as round one, and then maybe the White Vision is gonna win, and then he's gonna fight Wanda or something in that type of realm. But if Wanda sees both of them fighting, maybe she could use some powers into a little fusion, like AK Dragon Ball Z. So like, hey, Trunks and Gohan, fuse together, aka White Vision and Fake Vision, and that's how they're gonna get the real Vision back, or and get the memories and everything, and get the whole complicated relationship back together. So it's very interesting if that happens in episode 9. And if it does, that will really blow my mind because I just came up with a theory. Like once the episode, and like, she could literally just do what happened in the comics with Tom King's version of the Vision, just put the old Vision, the new Vision back together. Like that's like it's possible, but what happened, that'll be interesting to know, and how much would it affect Wanda herself, knowing that her husband came from being dead to alive, and then the one that she'd been hanging out the whole time was dead, but it was a illusion of herself. So like this would be really messing up her whole psychosis. So like after all this, she really needs to see some type of therapist because this will be messing up anybody's mind. So
Mhm.
pray to her for that.
Sam?
I was gonna say like so same thing theories of you guys, but there's so many directions that they can go with. Like and that's the great part of this great writing. Like you can go anywhere, but you would love to go this way, but it can also work really well that way, putting the mind vision that Wanda created into the body physical form that Hayward created. It's something we would see. And but the thing is, it might be a mix of both AIs of Vision and whatever AI that Haywood created too. Because remember, even Vision himself, he's not Jarvis and he's not technically Ultron. He was just a mix of both. Now you're mixing a third AI that whatever Haywood created into this mix, who's not completely. He's Vision, but he's not the Vision that they know or recognize in that sort of way. That might not like connect emotionally wise with the Wanda that they've had right now. So like he can like connect with they know like he has a relationship with Wanda and there's some relationship with her kids and his kids, but they're not like the real father kind of thing. And mentally, that's sort of ways what I'm thinking, what I can see. But it will be a whole Vision versus White Vision and Agatha versus Wanda together. It's literally the whole magic versus technology kind of situation. But who knows? I'm also hearing a rumor that the last episode might be much longer, might be the longest one that they're gonna miss since it's
Yeah.
gonna be the last episode, and there's no episode 10. So I guess you could combine two episodes into one. That
Most
hopefully
likely,
something like that.
most likely episode 9 would be like an hour and some change. Like that's around
Yeah.
the sweet spot because they said that a couple weeks ago there's 2 hours left. So if this one was 40 minutes and some like 1 minute and two, so this one will probably be an hour and 10 or like an hour and five. It depends on how they're gonna cut it, but there's not confirmed with time left.
But I can also see like if she wants to keep the vision that she wants to know, isn't that whole reason why you have a whole lot is so that you can always come back home for Wanda. So like have Vision just lives in that home, and whenever she wants to come back home, she can always go there and meet Vision again during that setup. And we know she can do that. She can do autopilot. She can have literally do all her own powers just like that anyway. So I see so many opportunities in that, and that's why I think that can also be possible. She created that whole home owning the hexes around that home because that's Vision can't come out the house, can't leave the house, can't come in the house. It's almost like home his own prison, but at the same time he wouldn't mind it because at least he knows that he exists in that home. He can still connect with the television, know what's going on around what's going on in the world, and Wanda can always come back home to always see him again, kind of thing. And that's also.
I think he might get lost in like the multiverse madness type thing. Cause I these kind of shows always end not always on a good note. Like I feel in my heart and soul. So I feel like we're gonna get Vision back, but I feel like either like Nexus line's gonna play into part where it's like he's gonna get lost, which is gonna probably maybe it's like, okay, now I gotta go save him again type thing, or something like that, where it's like it's not gonna be a full-on happy story
Oh,
because it's just
never.
too much going on right now to where it's like we got too many shows coming in that's gonna pan into it, you know, and so I don't really think. And I think maybe her kids too. Her kids and Vision probably gonna get lost in this multiverse type thing that Aka's probably gonna do, and it's gonna give her like that confidence to want to get stronger or something like that. To want to go on this journey with Monica. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes. Like, I do think that the finale will be definitely more than an hour. There's still so much to wrap up. Like, we need to see Pietro with
Thank you.
Monica. We need to see like Vision and Wanda going up against White Vision and how all of this is going to play out. Like, there's so much for them to do with the time that's left, and I can't wait to see it. Like, next Friday is going to be absolutely insane. I think this will probably be the first episode where I'm gonna stay up until like 3 a.m. and then just watch it immediately because I don't want spoilers on Twitter at all. But before we head out, Spicy, I'm gonna start with you. Let's get final thoughts on WandaVision episode 8, and then we're gonna head out.
Oh, final thoughts. I love it. 10 out of 10 in my book. I'm super excited for the setup for the future shows and movies to come. I just love Wanda. I love that Wanda's getting that development that she lacked throughout all these movies, and how she's not just like depressed, like fully depressed. Like, she's broken down. She went through all the stages of grieving, and now she's like, all right, I gotta make some moves now. So I'm really excited.
Sam?
Love this episode. I think this was what a lot of people who has no comic book knowledge, who's been kept watching, kept going on and forward, who did not have anything wrong with the entire series at all from the beginning, even though people complain about it. They literally got to this point. They rewarded with this episode saying, here you go. Now you know the whole, like, the story of this entire thing, the whole trauma, the part. It's like, okay, so much worth it. It was worth waiting for. If you were to ask me into this, like, I'm not a huge comic book reader, but I waited for this moment. I'm consistently watching. I was so interested. I love the characters, and now we are rewarded with the knowledge and story of Wanda, her trauma, and how Vision came to be. All worth it. I don't know why people had to complain from the beginning. You just are not patient enough for this episode, and wow, worth it.
Yeah, they're not patient at all, and some people just have an inability to look deeper than surface level. But Vash, final thoughts?
I love it. I said a lot of my thoughts throughout the show. I enjoyed it. Can't wait for episode 9. I really have to stay up or see what happens because I want to be in a long time. And at the end, I'm excited because I don't know what's going to be happening. So at the end, this was a great time to talk about episode 8. Episode 9 is going to be so much talk about the last episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be a stacked episode for sure. But real quick, before we do the outro, Chris wanted to know if you guys think we'll see the full Scarlet Witch costume by the end of WandaVision.
Yes, absolutely. I think we might, or else with Spicy Lady saying with dimension, like she have to go to a portal dimension, and that's the whole reason why Scarlet Witch full costume coming out into this aura, the circle thing. That's why, like, many possibilities. That's why I said, like, there's any direction to go for, and like whatever you think, they're gonna do it much better than your expectations, that sort of stuff. So I'm up for anything.
Spicy?
Yeah, I think we're going to get because we got that kind of like the old costume and like the little gag episode, but I think this one's gonna be the full like on like official updated costume that I'm excited to see what they're gonna do on it. And I think that Mind Stone when she first got it was like a vision because it's a Mind Stone. So I really think that's gonna be like a vision of her going into like the multiverse, like officially like, accepting who she is type thing. So I'm excited to see. And I want the little headpiece, please.
And plus, I hope she's be called Scarlet Witch from now on as a hero name. Like we have, Iron Man, Captain America. I hope her
want her
name
to
is
stay.
that. Yeah, like my
Keep
name
the
is
name
Scarlet Witch. Like I want
Yes.
that. Like, I was called from some lady. I got the Call me Scarlet Witch from now on. Like
I
that,
like the
that'd be beautiful.
consistent red throughout the whole series. Like the red jackets when she's a kid, the red car, the red, like everything
The
was red. I
hoodie,
was
the
like,
everything.
yes,
Yeah.
everything.
I absolutely love it, man. This series is just, it's so good. I knew it would be good, but it far surpassed my expectations, and I just can't wait to see the finale. I can't wait to see what the finale leads into. If we're going to get some type of Easter egg for Spider-Man No Way Home, or if Doctor Strange is going to show up in the finale for some reason, if Mephisto Nightmare is going to show up. There's so many different possibilities for what could happen, and I just can't wait, guys. Thank you so much for being here. This was actually like so much fun. Like, I was so glad to have Spicy finally on a podcast here on the channel. Sam finally got you here on the channel. So Spicy, why don't you give the fans your plugs? Tell them where they can find you online.
Well, thank you for having me on here. I had a lot of fun. I've been itching to talk WandaVision because I'm just like my theories. So I'm glad we got them all out. You guys can catch me on my podcast, Spice Lady Talks, available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I actually made a Patreon, Spice Lady Entertainment. You guys go check that out. New content on the way. I have a special project that I'm about to be working on. Like probably post in April, so be on the lookout for that. Instagram, Spice Lady Entertainment, Twitter, Spice Lady ENT, Twitch, Spice Lady Gaming. I'll be gaming soon. My PC's in the shop, but I'm about to be gaming really soon, so follow me on there. And on YouTube, Spice Lady Talks. I'll be posting more live reactions on there and more videos. So yeah.
Yeah, Sam, where can the people find you?
Yeah, as you can always follow me in the social media, SamTheMangaMan. I also the hosting on Anime Lately podcast. You can always catch it up on Thursdays. We didn't have a new episode last week, but this week it's okay. We'll be back next Thursday with more talk of anime, manga, all the love stuff, and we might have a guest. I think we have a guest next episode, so stay tuned for that, guys.
Vash?
You guys could always watch me here in James every Friday. I was about to say Monday. Every Friday, to talk about WandaVision, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Loki series, everything that we bring up. The Flash comes back next week as well, so we will be definitely talking about the Flash next Friday as well. So very excited to see season 7 of the Flash and how it turns out, and Superman Lois season 2. Very curious to know. And follow me at Legendary Vash everywhere else.
Yeah, you guys know where you can find me. All of our social media will be in the links in the description below. Like Vash said, Flash is coming back. We're going to be talking Superman and Lois. We're also going to be talking the WandaVision finale. So C4S Villains episode 8 is going to be a stacked one. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Share the video with your friends. Tell them about the show, because I have a blast doing this every single week. I told you, I couldn't wait to get Spicy on this show because I know she has so much to say, so much knowledge to bring to the table. It was an honor to have Sam here. I get to talk to Sam every week on Anime Lately, but to get him here to talk comics and superhero shows, it was an absolute honor. Again, chat, thank you guys so much for being here. I know it was a bit early. We had to switch some things up in the schedule, but next week we will be back at 8 p.m. CST, 9 EST next Friday. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you guys on the next one.